I'm going to be working now on another flower journal page. This one, I'm going to be using the same palette that I have set up from our little Aster purple video. I'm using the same paint. So this is, once again, the Basics Acrylic Liquitex Dioxazine Purple and Titanium White as my primary flower color. And this time I'm going to be using the Dagger brush for pretty much everything, I think. So follow along with me to kind of see how these petals are going to form. I'm just taking this super dark dioxazine purple a little bit on my brush. I've got this place where I've mixed slightly lighter color, but I don't want this to be super light. We're going straight in with the purple, and I am going to pick a place anywhere on my background. I'm going to kind of fill in a lot more of the green than I did with the last video. So this time I am kind of starting at the top and making a big sweeping motion with my Dagger brush. So it's like I'm making a big sort of petal, and then I'm going to come back in with the lighter purple and sort of fill that in. Same thing. And I love the way that this kind of swooping brush stroke ends up giving you a sort of fade. So that's what we're looking for, that slight fade. This time I'm loading my brush with that purple, and then I'm going to just dip the tip in the white so you can see how my brush just has a little bit of white on it. I'm going to come over to the side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw a line and then sweep down, and we're just sort of going for the impression of petals here, filling back in with the purple and the lavender. This does not have to be perfect. It's art journaling, so I'm not terribly concerned that this looks exactly like a flower of any sort. Now, if you want it to, you certainly can. I love field guides for checking out flower shapes, or you could do a Pinterest search, photos of flowers, Google search, photos of flowers. But for my purposes here, I'm just kind of making these sort of swoopy strokes with the various purple colors. And now we're going to come down here. Like irises kind of have that bottom petal. It's like the beard, right? Some irises do, at least bearded irises do. That's where they get their common name from. So I'm going to do the same kind of thing, except drawing it down this time. All right, so this time I'm going flat, just kind of sweeping down, filling that in. All right, that's beautiful. Add another little impression of a petal to the side here, as if they're just sort of a few more. And that's my first one. So I want to continue this concept of having this kind of big center petal. I'm going to do them in all different orientations around the page. This one's a little bit more upright than the first one, getting some of that white, mixing it in for a little lighter purple. And it does not have to be perfect. I think that's kind of the most important takeaway, is that this is for play or experimentation or meditation. This is for whatever you need it to be for. It's personal. So letting go of this has to look like certain something is kind of the most important part for me. As you're building your shapes, you will find that there are some that you like more than others, and then just try to do it again. And so this is a great time to experiment. I love kind of working with different brushes when I do art journaling, and this is going to let me have some idea of maybe how different things are going to look or react when I go back to the actual canvas. So I'm just kind of giving the impression of petals. I'm gonna come down a little bit. I like that little bit more white down here for my bearded petal. Right. That even has some streaks. Doesn't have to be solid on the edges. If you want it, you can always come back here and change it. That's the other big takeaway. Nothing is permanent. Definitely not acrylic paint. maybe if I was a tattoo artist, but I am not. I never was willing to take that kind of responsibility for somebody else's art. These are very much easy to change. So I want another one, maybe kind of off the page here, or off the green part of the page. I'm really liking that sort of spilling into my space that I have left for writing. And I am going to be coming back to these pages with pen and possibly doing even a little bit of collaging. You can add anything you want to your art journal. It's one of the reasons why it's really important to get a heavier page for these, because you do want them to hold up. If you add glue, paint itself of course warps the paper. So this is not just regular notebook paper. This is a heavier grade of paper for painting that I am using. All right, filling in, coming down here now with this beard. I'm going a little more purple on this one. Just grabbing some of the white that's here and not dry from the one that I've already sort of put in here. Love it. If I see spots where the green is peeking through, I can just kind of go back in and tap and fill in that color if I want. You also don't have to. You can just leave them. We're going to come over here. Make another one. Maybe do a really, a slightly bigger one this time. This looks like a good place for a bigger flower. A lot of purple. And come back in, swoop that white around. This is the second journal page I have done on the same kind of grassy green background. And so you can go back and find my grassy green background art journal page if you want a background like this. These can also go over any kind of background. This might look nice with something really lightly colored, or even just on the white itself. A little bit more white in that center petal, so I'm just going to take a tap of the white, draw it down, curving it so it gives that impression of movement. They're all a little different. Flowers are. That's one of those neat things. A lot of flowers, you're not going to necessarily see the same shape even on the same plant. You'll get the same number of petals if one hasn't fallen off. There's a lot of variation. And that's what makes painting flowers, I think, so relaxing, is that you really don't have to be precise to have something in the end that looks like a flower, that gives that impression of being a flower, which is the most important part here, right? We're just implying nature of the flower, shapes in a very general way. Finishing up that little bottom petal. this one a little bigger maybe. A little bit more white in there. I do like having that white in the center. Now we are going to be coming back with some white in the very center where you would have your stamens, your anthers, your reproductive structures. Right? Just to kind of fill in. Making petals pretty simply. That one was just touch the brush down and drag, right? It doesn't take an awful lot to get that petal feeling. You can go either way with these brushes. There's a little bit of a different implication as to whether you go out or in, but I like both, and the more you work with it, the more you will get a feel for what the different brush strokes can do, and you'll decide what you like for yourself. Running out of purple. It's where you have to make the decision, like, am I done? Or do I want more flowers? I do like this. I like this. So I feel like this is maybe a good stopping point on the flowers for me, and come back in if I decide I want some more. So I'm just gonna tap into this white. I want to make a super light purple. Like it's almost white, but it still has that hint of purple to it. And I'm gonna wipe that brush off so that there's not much on there at all. And in doing so, I made it darker because there is purple already on my brush. Add a little bit more of that white. All right, it's a really pale lavender. So I want to come in here and I'm just going to make some straight up kind of little tiny lines as if they are coming up out of the center of these flowers. Just sort of deciding where the center is. Very light. It's okay if there's still a little dampness to your paint, because then you're just going to grab a little bit more purple and it will give it depth. If you drag through some wet color, that's okay. And so I'm going to come back here and add little taps of yellow to make it look like there's pollen on the tips of these. Right. Looking at this as it's drying, it is drying a little bit more matte, so I might use that same really light purple and just in a couple of places add a little bit more lightness. Tends to brighten things up, gives it a little bit more depth like that. Right, this is on paper. You're getting a very matte finish with these dark colors, so you can always spray it. I don't usually varnish or spray any sort of coat on my art journals, but you can. It would just have to sit and dry for quite some time, and I'm always in a hurry to paint the next page, so I'm more concerned about being able to move on. For me, I think so. The last time I used yellow, I used a gold ochre, which I do like, but I want a slightly brighter yellow this time. So we're gonna go with cadmium yellow. This is Liquitex Basics Cadmium Yellow Deep Hue. So just putting a little bit of that on my palette. Might add some titanium white to that and get. And yellows are a little translucent too, so on top of this darker purple, you're gonna lose some of it unless you do a couple of layers, which is also fine. And I'm just tapping. I might, like I said, go back and do this again on some of them. End up getting the feeling of depth because some will be a little bit darker. some a little bit lighter. This is very just simple dots, little bit of paint, and tap. Not all of them would be the same height, so you can kind of find your ends and then also go in there. Not all of them would be the same size little pollen dots. You can make those different sizes as well. And you're already seeing these start to dry and kind of fade out. So once I'm done adding yellow to each of these painting or each of these flowers, I can come back and just run over them one more time. Some of them. You don't necessarily need to do all of them. A little bit more. This is a good kind of stopping point for me on this one, I think. I do want to go back and add some stems. Irises have big sweeping leaves too, so I might swoop a leaf right here lightly onto this side of the page, but I want to let these dry completely first before I add anything else. But that is my second flower journal page for 2023 using the same background that we used for the first one. And I might continue this background through one or two more pages, do some variation in between, but I do like the sort of grassy feel. It's how I'm feeling right now, which that's what the art journal is all about. How I'm feeling right now, how you're feeling right now. You can explore this with different colors, different purples. Instead of the white, this could easily be blue, and then you'll end up with a kind of mix of a blue and purple or a deeper. You can also do the base of the petals in a very dark blue. Irises do come in all kinds of varying shades. So we have a lot of room for experimentation in this same sort of flower. You can see what you like and then keep playing with it. Come back in with some pens and write some of your thoughts and feelings, and it's a beautiful addition to your art journal.